Set your dial for 63. KDWB St. Paul, a Twin Cities sound citizen. Good morning for KDWB News. This is Don DuChene reporting. Number one news story this hour, Twin Cities. The United Fund campaigns in Minneapolis and St. Paul surpassed their goals. The drive ended Thursday night with Hennepin County reporting just over the goal at $5,216,669. In St. Paul, the goal was passed by 0.5%, $3,484,573. Twin Cities' several B-47 bombers arrived at Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport and are under guard beside the Air National Guard hangar. A spokesman at the Duluth Air Force Base had confirmed earlier that B-47 bombers of the Strategic Air Command had arrived in Duluth. Minneapolis' strict new laws covering the sale of drugs and medicines are needed to protect the public health, according to Robert Mattson, Special Assistant to the Minnesota Attorney General. He urges members of the State Pharmaceutical Association to back proposed legislation which would provide stricter safeguards on the sale of packaged and over-the-counter drugs. Minneapolis, a 53-year-old Mill City woman, remains in critical condition at General Hospital in Minneapolis following a car-train collision Wednesday night in Minneapolis. Mrs. Alvin Shorn of 1084 21st Avenue Southeast was injured when the car she was driving collided with a Northern Pacific switch engine. Channel 6-3 Politics Newsbeat. State DFL Chairman George Farr challenges Governor Elmer Anderson to reveal his secret tax program before Election Day. Farr says the governor had promised to reveal the contents of his tax committee report in time to permit ample public discussion and debate before the fall election. Farr said Anderson's promise has not been kept, and the people of Minnesota know no more about Anderson's tax plans than they did 2 years ago. Detroit Lakes, the body of a 15-year-old Langby, Minnesota youth, recovered from Rock Lake near Detroit Lakes. Dennis Clicker had the day off from school because of the MEA convention and decided to visit his grandfather at Detroit Lakes. He then decided to do some duck hunting, and before too long he hit a duck. But it fell into the lake, and the youth attempted to use an old boat to retrieve the bird, but he somehow fell into the water. His body was recovered by Becker County Sheriff's officers. KDWB News Time, 1:02, Washington. The White House emphasizes the arms quarantine on Cuba will continue. The quarantine task force ringing the island allowed a Soviet oil tanker to pass through its cordon yesterday because petroleum shipments were not banned by President Kennedy's order. The Defense Department also reported at least a dozen Soviet ships bound for Cuba turned back, but others still are on their way to the island, and the Pentagon says they will be stopped and searched. President Kennedy's determination to enforce the ban against Soviet arms shipment was implied in a note to UN Secretary General Thant. Thant had suggested a 2 to 3 weeks suspension of the quarantine and a halt to Russian arms shipments while the two nations negotiated toward a peaceful settlement. The president indicated his willingness to discuss the crisis in the United Nations, but he did not touch on the proposal that the quarantine be ended. And the White House said later it is self-evident that the quarantine will continue. Soviet Premier Khrushchev voiced his agreement with the Thant proposal in a note delivered by Soviet UN delegate Valerin Zorin. Zorin refused to deny the Kremlin had sent missiles to Cuba when American Ambassador Adlai Stevenson asked him for a direct yes or no answer to the question. Instead, he merely reiterated the Soviet contention that it does not need to put missiles in Cuba. KDWB News Time, 1:03.5. Key West, Florida. Defense posts have been set up on the Florida Keys, and troops are manning rocket launchers and powerful searchlights. More troops are being placed in position as they arrive by train, truck, and plane. Berlin, the U.S. Army 6,500-man garrison in Berlin on Friday will wind up its 4-day combat maneuvers. The war games with infantry, armor, and artillery taking part were held in Grunwald Forest. The exercises lent weight to President Kennedy's pledge for all-out support for West Berlin. Honolulu, the United States will try at 1:30 Twin City time this morning for its third successful high-altitude nuclear shot of the year series over Johnston Island in the Pacific. Chicago, the Midwest, has been hit by its first cold wave and snowstorm of the season. Most of the snow fell Thursday just east and south of the Great Lakes, driven across the lakes by gale-force winds. Bellston and Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, had 7 inches of snow on the ground from earlier storms. 2 inches fell on northern Indiana and Ohio. London, a London dentist, says Ben Franklin was only half right about the benefits of apples. Professor G.C. Slack said an apple a day also keeps the dentist away. Slack said that in a recent survey, children who ate apples had half as many cavities as those who did not. Twin Cities, KDWB Climatological Survey. Occasional cloudiness, warmer today and tomorrow. Low this morning about 20 in the city, but as low as 10 to 15 in outlying areas. High today 48, low tonight 28, Saturday's high 60. At news time, 88 humidity. The weather calm, no breeze. Under fair Twin City skies, the Don DuChene program temperature 18 KDWB degrees. For KDWB News, this is Don DuChene.
Channel 63 Sports Scoreboard.
St. Paul Hockey Saints coach Fred Shiro pulls the wraps off his 1962-63 edition of the Fighting Saints tonight in an exhibition game with the Omaha Knights at the Wakota Ice Arena in South St. Paul. Tickets for the game now on sale at the Hockey Club office, Field Schlick, and the Wakota Ice Arena. Thursday high school football, Mechanic Arts 38, Humboldt nothing. Two strong right-handers are UPI's pitchers of the year in the National and American Leagues. The winners announced yesterday are Don Drysdale of the Los Angeles Dodgers and Dick Donovan of the Cleveland Indians. Drysdale picked up 25 victories, most for a National League pitcher since 1956, when Don Newcomb posted 27 for the then Brooklyn Dodgers. Donovan pitched 5 shutouts en route to a 20-victory season for Cleveland. The Philadelphia Phillies have signed young lefty Chris Short, and the National League champion San Francisco Giants have released veteran Bob Neiman. Hot-handed Bob Rosberg is in front by 3 strokes going into today's second round of the Orange County Open Golf Tournament at Costa Mesa, California. Rosberg cracked the course record by 1 stroke in yesterday's opening round with a blistering 8-under par 63. Easy to remember golf stroke. Subpar rounds by other golfers in the $22,500 tourney just were not good enough in the face of Rosberg's card. Jerry Sealsmith with a 5-under par 66 settled for second place, and Gene Littler and George Baer with 4-under par 70s tied for third. Argentine heavyweight Lavarante, in a coma since being KO'd in about September 21st, had his 26th birthday yesterday. Lavarante's mother, who has been at his side since 4 days after he suffered the brain injury, paid another silent visit to her son. Pinky George, the fighter's manager, has been another faithful visitor at the Los Angeles hospital. Doctors say there is no indication when or if Lavarante will recover consciousness. A couple of all-losing college football teams are in the spotlight tonight, pending tomorrow's usual heavy schedule. The Detroit Titans, winless in 4 starts, host the Dayton Flyers, who are in an even worse shape with 6 straight losses. Minnesota Gophers defended Michigan pass patterns Thursday and sought to sharpen their own passing attack in the last intensive workout before Saturday's game. The Gophers, who leave for Ann Arbor today, and the defense of the Little Brown Jug Saturday, also practice coverage on kickoff plays and protection on punts. Set your dial for 63, KDWB St. Paul, a Twin Cities sound citizen.
You never heard it so good riding round in your car.
Kdwb, highway or byway or driveway, wherever you are. You want to keep travel tuned to 63.
More music per mile.
Kdwb, our mobile units keep you in the know of Twin City news wherever you go. You never heard it so good in your automobile. KDWB.